Hello there, and welcome to the Dreamy Ocean Channel. Perhaps today has woven a complex pattern of tasks and thoughts, leaving your mind a little restless, your body seeking solace. As you settle into your chosen space, allow yourself to simply be. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air gently fill your lungs. And as you exhale, imagine releasing any lingering tension. Let your shoulders soften, your jaw unclench, and feel the quiet stillness begin to gather around you. There is no need to hold on to the day's echoes. Simply let them drift away on a gentle tide as your eyelids grow a little heavier, a little softer. Tonight, we journey into the profound, silent depths where history's grandest vessels lie in their final resting places, not merely as relics of disaster, but as colossal archives, each guarding classified cargo, political secrets, and protected information that the world above is not yet permitted to fully comprehend. Allow your consciousness to gently descend with us as we explore these submerged mysteries, letting the ocean's ancient lullaby guide you towards a deep, peaceful slumber. The deep ocean as a silent archive, far beneath the sunlit surface where the last golden rays of light surrender their warmth to an ever-deepening blue, lies an immense, silent realm. This colossal volume of water stretching across the planetary sphere represents an environment so alien to our surface existence that it often feels like another world entirely, a vast, cold expanse where the very concept of time seems to slow, becoming an unhurried ancient rhythm. Here, the weight of the overlying water column presses down with an unimaginable constant force measured in hundreds, even thousands of atmospheres, creating a profound stillness that pervades every molecule of the liquid world. It is within this crushing embrace, within this perpetual twilight, that the ocean becomes a profound, silent archive, a vast, cold library where the stories of lost vessels and their secrets are meticulously, if slowly, preserved. Imagine the gentle descent into this abyssal realm, a journey where the familiar hues of the upper ocean, vibrant blues and greens, gradually fade into an inky, impenetrable blackness. Sunlight, the lifeblood of our surface world, cannot penetrate beyond a few hundred meters, leaving the vast majority of the ocean in eternal night. This absence of light profoundly shapes the environment, extinguishing the vibrant photosynthesis that fuels surface ecosystems. Without the sun's energy, the deep ocean's food web is sparse, relying on the slow, continuous rain of organic particles known as marine snow, drifting down from the productive layers above or on the unique chemosynthetic communities thriving around hydrothermal vents. This scarcity of light and life contributes significantly to the deep ocean's archival quality, as it limits the biological processes that would otherwise rapidly degrade organic materials. The extreme pressure, a constant pervasive force, plays another crucial role in this preservation. For every 10 meters of descent, the pressure increases by approximately 1 atmosphere, meaning that at depths where many historic shipwrecks rest, often thousands of meters down, the force exerted upon every square centimeter of surface area is equivalent to hundreds of kilograms. This immense pressure, while initially destructive during the rapid collapse of a sinking vessel, paradoxically contributes to the long-term stability of the wreck once it settles on the seabed. It compacts sediments around the structure, holding it firmly in place, and influences chemical reactions, often slowing them down. The very water itself, under such duress, behaves subtly differently, becoming a dense, unwavering medium that cradles and encases. Accompanying the darkness and pressure is an overwhelming cold, a chill that penetrates to the very core. Deep ocean temperatures typically hover just above freezing, often between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius. This pervasive cold significantly retards the rate of chemical reactions and biological activity. In warmer, shallower waters, organic materials decay, quickly consumed by bacteria and other decomposers. But in the frigid abyss, these processes are dramatically slowed. The metabolic rates of any organisms that can survive in such conditions are greatly reduced, turning the vast seabed into a colossal natural refrigerator. This cold preservation is akin to placing an object in a deep freeze, extending its lifespan far beyond what would be possible in warmer conditions, allowing materials that would otherwise vanish to endure for centuries, even millennia. Crucially, many deep-sea environments are also characterized by low oxygen levels, or even anoxia, a complete absence of dissolved oxygen. Oxygen is a powerful agent of decay, fueling the aerobic bacteria and fungi that break down organic matter. In certain deep ocean basins or within the sediment layers themselves where oxygen is scarce, anaerobic decomposition takes over a much slower process that often leaves behind more stable compounds. This oxygen depletion, combined with the cold and pressure, creates conditions where even highly perishable materials, such as textiles, leather, paper, and sometimes even human remains, can be remarkably preserved, their delicate structures defying the passage of immense spans of time. Imagine a silk garment, its fibers still discernible lying in the deep, having escaped the hungry microbes that would have devoured it in sunlit waters. The very seabed itself acts as a protective blanket. As marine snow continuously drifts downwards, carrying fine particles of sediment, it gently settles upon the wreck, slowly burying it over time. This gradual burial shields the vessel from strong currents, from the remote possibility of iceberg scour, and from some forms of biological degradation. A shipwreck once exposed might slowly corrode, but as it becomes enveloped by the soft ooze of the deep, it enters a state of relative stability. The sediment acts as a buffer, creating a localized microenvironment around the wreck that can further limit oxygen penetration and stabilize chemical processes. This slow, patient burial transforms a lost ship into an archaeological site, a three-dimensional record encased within the Earth's watery mantle. However, the deep ocean is not an absolute guarantor of eternal preservation. The relentless chemistry of seawater, particularly its salinity, still acts upon metallic structures. Iron and steel, the primary components of many modern vessels, are susceptible to corrosion, a slow but inevitable process, where the metal gradually reverts to its more stable oxide forms, essentially rusting away. This process can be accelerated by galvanic corrosion, where dissimilar metals in contact create an electrical current leading to the preferential degradation of one. Yet even this decay is measured in centuries rather than decades in the deep, especially compared to the rapid deterioration observed in oxygen-rich, turbulent shallow waters. Moreover, while life is sparse, it is not absent. Specialized deep-sea organisms known as extremophiles have adapted to these harsh conditions. Certain types of bacteria can consume iron and steel, forming rusticles, which are delicate, porous structures that hang from the metal, like icicles slowly drawing away its substance. Wood-boring organisms such as shipworms can devastate wooden wrecks, though their activity is generally less pronounced at extreme depths where organic matter is scarce. However, the overall biological activity that contributes to degradation is significantly reduced compared to shallower marine environments, leaving much of the wreck's structure and contents largely undisturbed for extended periods. Thus, the abyssal embrace transforms a catastrophic event into a historical repository. A vessel that sinks to the deep becomes a frozen moment in time, its contents, its structure, and the very circumstances of its demise suspended in a unique state of preservation. These submerged time capsules hold not only the physical remnants of human endeavor, but also the potential for untold stories, for classified cargo, for political secrets, and for protected information that for various reasons has remained hidden beneath the waves. The deep ocean, with its profound darkness, its crushing pressure, its pervasive cold, and its oxygen-starved stillness, becomes the most effective, albeit unintentional, archivist known to our world, guarding its secrets with an ancient, unwavering patience, waiting for the gentle whisper of discovery to arrive. Each rivet, each shattered porthole, each sealed compartment holds a potential fragment of a truth, yet to be fully revealed, resting in the quietude of the deep where the ocean's breath is slow and dreams begin to softly form. From surface catastrophe to seabed slumber. As a vessel once proud and buoyant begins its irreversible journey from the sunlit surface towards the crushing darkness of the abyss, it embarks upon a profound physical transformation, dictated by the immutable laws of hydrodynamics and the relentless embrace of gravity. This descent, often initiated by a catastrophic breach, is not a simple fall, but a complex ballet of forces, a gradual surrender to the ocean's immense power, culminating in a silent, eternal slumber on the seabed. The genesis of this journey often starts subtly, with a tear in the steel skin, a fissure in the hull, or a structural failure that allows the first insidious tendrils of seawater to creep inwards. Imagine a ship, its vast internal volume designed to displace enough water to create an upward buoyant force now compromised. A single compartment, perhaps an engine room or a cargo hold, begins to fill. The water, cold and heavy, trickles, then rushes, replacing the air that once provided buoyancy. Each cubic meter of air replaced by a cubic meter of seawater adds approximately 1 metric ton to the ship's effective weight. This incremental increase in mass begins to tilt the delicate balance between the upward push of buoyancy and the downward pull of gravity. Archimedes' principle, a fundamental pillar of fluid mechanics, dictates that an object submerged in a fluid experiences an upward buoyant force equal to the weight of the fluid it displaces. As long as the ship's total weight, including its cargo and the water it has taken on, remains less than the weight of the water it displaces, it will remain afloat. But with each wave that washes over a damaged deck, with each new compartment that succumbs to the relentless ingress of the sea, the ship's effective weight inches closer to, then inevitably surpasses its maximum buoyant capacity. The struggle against the water becomes visible, a list to one side, a gradual sinking of the bow, or stern the decks drawing closer to the churning waves. The tipping point arrives, a moment of profound physical surrender, when the total weight of the vessel, now heavy with the embrace of the ocean within its very structure, exceeds the buoyant force capable of holding it aloft. At this critical juncture, the ship's positive buoyancy, its inherent ability to float, transforms into negative buoyancy. The vessel no longer fights against the water. It is drawn downwards, pulled into the depths by an irresistible gravitational force. The initial descent can be agonizingly slow, a stately, almost reluctant bow to the ocean's power, perhaps, with a stern rising majestically into the air, before plunging down, or a slow, ponderous roll as water engulfs the upper decks. Once negative buoyancy is established, the ship begins its true descent through the vast water column. The forces acting upon it become a complex interplay. The persistent downward pull of gravity, the diminishing upward push of buoyancy as the ship is fully submerged and displacing a constant volume, and the ever-increasing resistance of drag. drag, the frictional force exerted by the water against the ship's moving hull, acts as a brake, slowing the descent. The shape of the vessel, its orientation, and the integrity of its structure all influence the magnitude of this drag. A streamlined hull might cut through the water more efficiently, accelerating its fall, while a ship breaking apart might tumble, creating greater resistance and a more chaotic descent. As the vessel plunges deeper, another far more profound force begins its inexorable assault: hydrostatic pressure. For every 10 meters of depth, the pressure exerted by the overlying water increases by approximately 1 atmosphere, or about 14.7 pounds per square inch. This invisible, omnipresent force, barely noticeable at the surface, becomes a crushing, overwhelming presence in the deep. At a depth of 1,000 meters, the pressure is equivalent to 100 atmospheres, or over 1,470 pounds per square inch. Imagine the weight of a heavy car pressing down on an area no larger than your thumbnail multiplied across every surface of the ship. This immense pressure has a devastating effect on any remaining air-filled compartments within the sinking vessel. While the ship's exterior hull might be designed to withstand moderate external pressure, internal bulkheads and compartments are not. As the vessel descends, the external pressure on these sealed spaces rapidly exceeds the internal air pressure. The structural integrity of these compartments is inevitably compromised. The process is not gradual, it is instantaneous and violent. Once the critical threshold is reached, the air-filled space collapses inwards with explosive force. This phenomenon, known as implosion, occurs in mere milliseconds. The bulkhead's buccal steel plates crumple, and the air within is compressed so rapidly that it generates a shockwave, tearing apart the surrounding structure. The sounds of these implosions, though muffled by the water, would be deafeningly loud to any nearby marine life, or sensitive hydrophones, a series of rapid, thunderous cracks and groans as the ship is literally torn apart from within. A large vessel might experience multiple implosions as different compartments reach their pressure limits at varying depths. These catastrophic internal collapses can rip the ship into multiple distinct sections, sending vast pieces of the hull superstructure and internal machinery spiraling downwards independently. The fragmentation of a ship during its descent is a common occurrence, leaving a scattered trail of debris across the ocean floor. The final phase of the descent, often termed the plunge, sees the fragmented sections and individual pieces of debris accelerating rapidly towards the seabed. Without the cohesive structure of the complete hull, drag forces are less organized, and the denser, more compact pieces fall with increasing velocity. Imagine a rain of wreckage, a silent, slow-motion cascade of twisted metal wooden fragments and countless artifacts, all drifting through the inky blackness, each piece finding its own trajectory. The larger sections, perhaps the bow and stern, might maintain some semblance of their original form, while midsections could be utterly pulverized. The impact with the seabed varies greatly depending on the depth, the velocity of the falling pieces, and the nature of the ocean floor. In some cases, a particularly heavy section might strike a hard, rocky bottom with immense force, causing further fragmentation and embedding itself deeply into the substratum. In other instances, a piece might settle gently onto a soft, muddy plain, creating a subtle depression as it comes to rest. The momentum of the impact can sometimes drive large sections deep into the sediment, burying parts of the wreck almost immediately. Once the final piece settles, the physics of descent gives way to the physics of preservation. The forces that tore the ship apart now give way to the gentle, enveloping embrace of the deep. The seabed becomes its final resting place, a silent bed where currents are minimal, light is non-existent, and biological activity is drastically reduced. The initial impact might scatter smaller artifacts, creating a debris field that stretches for kilometers around the main wreck site. Over time, marine snow will begin its slow, patient work of burial, gently draping a fine layer of sediment over the twisted metal and scattered remains, slowly incorporating the once magnificent vessel into the geological fabric of the ocean floor. The ship, now broken and silent, enters its seabed slumber, a colossal monument to a moment of catastrophe, a silent archive awaiting the gentle light of discovery. Ocean chemistry and marine life at depth. Once a vessel settles into its seabed slumber, having completed its tumultuous descent, it enters a new phase of existence, becoming a silent stage for an intricate drama, played out by the unhurried forces of ocean chemistry and the specialized life forms that inhabit the deep. These are the architects of both decay and preservation, working in concert, often at a pace so slow it can only be measured across centuries, sometimes even millennia, meticulously shaping the fate of the sunken remains. At the forefront of the forces of decay stands the relentless process of corrosion, an electrochemical reaction that slowly but inevitably transforms metals back into their more stable, oxidized forms. For ships constructed primarily of iron and steel, the primary antagonist is oxygen, even in the deep, where its concentrations are significantly lower than near the surface. Water, with its dissolved salts, acts as an electrolyte, facilitating the movement of electrons and ions. Iron atoms exposed to this saline water release electrons, becoming positively charged iron ions. These electrons then combine with dissolved oxygen and water to form hydroxide ions, completing the circuit. The iron ions and hydroxide ions then react to form iron hydroxide, which eventually dehydrates and oxidizes further to become various forms of rust, a reddish-brown, brittle substance. In the frigid, high-pressure environment of the deep ocean, the rate of this corrosion is significantly retarded compared to the warmer, more oxygen-rich waters of the continental shelf. Chemical reactions in general proceed much more slowly at lower temperatures. The scarcity of oxygen also limits the availability of one of the key reactants in the corrosion process. Yet even in the abyss, rust is an unyielding force, transforming solid steel into porous, fragile structures. Over vast stretches of time, this process manifests in the formation of what are known as rusticles. These are not mere patches of rust. They are delicate, intricate, porous structures that resemble elongated orange-brown icicles or stalactites hanging from the metal surfaces of the wreck. Rusticles are in essence living ecosystems. They are formed by specialized communities of iron-oxidizing bacteria, microscopic life forms, that derive their energy by converting metallic iron into iron oxides. These bacteria create a distinct microenvironment within the rusticle where oxygen levels can vary dramatically. The outer layers might be more oxygenated, while the inner core becomes increasingly anoxic, allowing different types of bacteria to thrive. As these microbial communities slowly consume the steel, they leave behind these fragile, hollow structures, providing a unique window into the slow biological degradation of metal in the deep. A large shipwreck can become adorned with countless rusticles, transforming its once sharp lines into soft, flowing organic forms, a testament to the slow, patient work of these tiny, unseen architects. Beyond the general corrosion of iron and steel, another powerful corrosive force at play is galvanic corrosion. This occurs when two dissimilar metals are in electrical contact within an electrolyte, such as seawater. One metal, the more active one, will preferentially corrode, effectively sacrificing itself to protect the other, more noble metal. For instance, if brass fittings which contain copper are in direct contact with a steel hull, the steel will corrode at an accelerated rate near the point of contact, creating localized areas of intense degradation. This selective decay can lead to curious patterns of preservation and destruction across a shipwreck, where some sections appear relatively intact, while adjacent areas are severely eroded. While metals are slowly transformed, organic materials face a different set of challenges. Wood, once the backbone of seafaring vessels for millennia, is susceptible to various forms of biological degradation. In shallower, warmer waters, wood-boring organisms such as shipworms, pteridinidae, and Gribble's limnoria can rapidly reduce a wooden hull to sawdust. These organisms burrow into the wood, digesting the cellulose and lignin. However, in the extreme conditions of the deep ocean, their activity is significantly diminished. The vast majority of deep-sea environments are too cold and food scarce to support large populations of these voracious borers. While some specialized deep-sea wood borers do exist, their impact is generally less widespread and slower than their shallow water counterparts. Instead, the primary biological architects of organic decay in the deep are often bacteria and archaea. Sulfate-reducing bacteria, for example, thrive in anoxic sediments where they break down organic matter using sulfate instead of oxygen, producing hydrogen sulfide as a byproduct. This process contributes to the blackening of sediments and can also lead to the formation of sulfide minerals that can react with metals. However, the overall metabolic activity of these deep-sea microbes is greatly reduced by the pervasive cold and the limited availability of organic nutrients, meaning that even organic materials under the right conditions can persist for astonishing lengths of time. This leads us to the powerful forces of preservation at work in the deep. The very conditions that make the abyss so challenging for life also make it an exceptional archive. The pervasive cold, often hovering just above freezing, acts as a natural refrigerator, dramatically slowing down all chemical reactions and biological processes, effectively pressing the pause button on decay. The immense hydrostatic pressure, while initially destructive during the descent, can also influence chemical equilibria, sometimes favoring the stability of certain compounds. Perhaps the most significant architect of preservation is the low oxygen or anoxic environment found in many deep-sea sediments and within the enclosed spaces of wrecks. Oxygen is the primary driver of aerobic decomposition, the process by which most organic matter is broken down by bacteria and fungi. In its absence, these processes slow to a crawl, allowing materials that would quickly vanish in oxygen-rich waters such as textiles, leather, paper, and even human remains to endure for centuries, their delicate forms remarkably intact. Imagine a leather boot, its stitching still discernible, resting on the seabed, having escaped the hungry microbes that would have devoured it on a sunlit shore. The continuous gentle rain of marine snow, composed of fine organic and inorganic particles drifting down from the upper ocean, also plays a crucial role. Over time, this slow, patient accumulation of sediment gradually buries the shipwreck, creating a protective blanket. This burial shields the wreck from strong bottom currents, which could erode delicate features or scatter artifacts. More importantly, the sediment creates a localized microenvironment around the wreck, further limiting oxygen penetration and stabilizing temperatures. Within these anoxic sediments, the conditions for preserving organic materials become even more favorable, creating what scientists sometimes refer to as cold seeps of history. Another fascinating process of preservation involves concretion. Over long periods, minerals dissolved in seawater, such as carbonates, can precipitate and form hard, stony layers around artifacts. This process, often catalyzed by microbial activity, effectively encases objects in a protective rock-like shell, much like a natural cement. A metal object, a wooden beam, or even a delicate ceramic pot can become completely entombed within a hard concretion, preserving its form and preventing further decay, sometimes for thousands of years. When these concretions are carefully removed and opened, the artifact within can be found in a remarkably pristine state, a testament to the ocean's ability to mummify its lost treasures in stone. The interplay of these forces, the slow, persistent corrosion of metals, the limited biological degradation of organic materials, and the powerful preservative effects of cold, low oxygen, and sediment burial, creates a dynamic balance. The deep ocean is not a uniform environment, and the state of preservation of a shipwreck can vary dramatically depending on its specific location depth, the type of seabed, and local currents. A wreck on an exposed rocky ridge might be more vulnerable to physical erosion and slightly higher oxygen levels, while a vessel nestled deep within an anoxic mud basin might achieve exceptional preservation for its organic components. Ultimately, the deep ocean, with its quietude and its unique chemical and biological conditions, acts as an unparalleled custodian of history. It is a place where the passage of time is measured in geological epochs, where the architects of decay work with an unhurried patience, and the forces of preservation create extraordinary time capsules. These submerged archives hold not only the physical remnants of human endeavor, but also the potential for untold stories, for classified cargo, for political secrets, and for protected information that for various reasons has remained hidden beneath the waves, waiting in the deep for the gentle light of understanding to slowly dawn. Unraveling ancient wrecks and their untold stories, from the silent architects of decay and preservation, whose slow, meticulous work shapes the metallic bones and organic remnants of modern wrecks. We now turn our gaze backwards through the vast, dark corridors of time. For it is precisely these profound, deep-sea conditions, the pervasive cold, the immense pressure, the scarcity of oxygen, and the patient blanket of sediment, that have safeguarded not only the ships of recent centuries, but also the far more ancient vessels, those silent echoes from a past where sails billowed and oars dipped, carrying the very lifeblood of emerging civilizations across turbulent seas. These ancient shipwrecks resting in their abyssal embrace are not merely historical curiosities. They are profound time capsules, each bearing untold stories, whispers of forgotten tongues, and the tangible evidence of human endeavor that written records often fail to capture. Imagine a world without satellite navigation, without steam engines, without radio communication. Picture vast wooden vessels, their hulls crafted from sturdy timbers, their sails woven from natural fibers, navigating by the stars and the currents, propelled by the sheer will and skill of their crews. These ships, often laden with the precious commodities that fueled ancient economies, were the arteries of the ancient world. When one of these vessels succumbed to a sudden storm, a treacherous reef, or the hidden dangers of the deep, it did not merely sink. It vanished from the surface world, carrying its secrets into the silent realm beneath the waves. For centuries, sometimes for thousands of years, these wooden ships, their pottery cargo, their bronze tools, and even the skeletal remains of their crews have been held in the deep ocean's cold, dark grip, awaiting the patient light of discovery. The cargo carried by these ancient vessels offers a unique window into the economic and cultural landscapes of their eras. Consider the ubiquitous amphorae, those elegant two-handled ceramic jars that are perhaps the most iconic artifacts found on ancient wrecks. Each amphora, often bearing the distinctive mark of its origin, tells a story of production trade and consumption. They held the liquid gold of olive oil, the rich red wines of the Mediterranean, the fermented fish sauces that seasoned Roman cuisine, and even grains or dried fruits. A shipwreck laden with hundreds, sometimes thousands of these ceramic containers is not just a collection of pots. It is a meticulously preserved snapshot of a single trading voyage, revealing the specific goods exchanged between distant ports, the routes traversed, and the sheer scale of ancient maritime commerce. Through the study of these amphorae, archaeologists can reconstruct intricate trade networks, trace the spread of agricultural products, and even infer dietary habits across vast empires. Beyond the ceramic containers, ancient wrecks frequently yield a breathtaking array of other artifacts. Ingots of copper, tin, lead, or even silver, often stamped with symbols of their origin or weight, speak volumes about the metallurgy and resource distribution of the time. Imagine a cargo of raw copper ingots, perhaps destined for a bronze foundry, now resting in a neat stack on the seabed, their metallic surfaces transformed by millennia of chemical interaction with seawater, yet still retaining their original form. Tools, weaponry, personal effects of the crew and passengers, such as lamps, coins, jewelry, and even rare papyrus fragments when preserved in anoxic sediments, offer intimate glimpses into the daily lives, beliefs, and technologies of people long vanished. Each object carefully recovered and conserved becomes a voice from the past, whispering details that no written history could provide. The ships themselves, particularly their construction, are invaluable sources of information. Unlike modern steel vessels, ancient ships were crafted from organic materials, predominantly wood. The deep ocean's anoxic sediments can, under ideal conditions, preserve significant portions of these wooden hulls. Through careful archaeological excavation, scientists can study the shipbuilding techniques of ancient cultures, revealing the types of timber used, the methods of joinery, the design principles, and the evolution of maritime architecture. Dendrochronology, the scientific method of dating tree rings, can be applied to preserved timbers, providing precise dates for when the trees were felled, offering a direct chronological marker for the construction of the vessel. This level of detail allows researchers to understand how ancient shipwrights adapted their designs to the specific demands of trade warfare or exploration, pushing the boundaries of their technological capabilities. The untold stories of these ancient wrecks often lie in the subtle nuances that written histories omit. What were the personal experiences of a Roman merchant sailing to distant Egypt? What fears gripped a Phoenician sailor as a storm descended upon his vessel, laden with precious dyes? The discovery of a small personal amulet, a worn sandal, or a gaming piece among the cargo can bring these distant lives into sharper focus, allowing us to connect with the human element of these grand historical narratives. These wrecks are not just archaeological sites, they are memorials holding the final moments of individuals whose names are long forgotten, but whose journeys shaped the course of human civilization. Unraveling these ancient stories from the deep is an immense challenge. The very conditions that preserve the wrecks also make them incredibly difficult to locate and access. Many lie at depths far beyond the reach of conventional diving, requiring sophisticated remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and autonomous underwater vehicles. AUVs equipped with high-resolution sonar magnetometers and advanced cameras. Once located, the archaeological excavation itself is a painstaking slow-motion process. Each artifact must be carefully mapped, documented, and recovered, often requiring specialized robotic manipulators to handle fragile materials that have been weakened by centuries of submersion. Furthermore, the preservation of artifacts once they are brought to the surface presents another complex scientific and logistical hurdle. Materials that have been stable in the deep-sea environment for millennia can rapidly degrade when exposed to the oxygen light and temperature changes of the surface world. Wood can crack and warp, metals can corrode quickly, and organic materials can disintegrate. Therefore, sophisticated conservation techniques, often involving lengthy treatments in specialized laboratories, are absolutely critical to stabilize these ancient treasures and ensure their long-term survival for study and display. This is a delicate balance, moving from the ocean's natural preservation to human-engineered conservation, a process that requires immense patience and scientific expertise. The secrets revealed by ancient shipwrecks are not those of classified documents or hidden political agendas, but rather the secrets of forgotten knowledge of daily routines, of trade routes that crisscrossed empires, and of the technological ingenuity of our ancestors. They offer irrefutable evidence that can challenge or confirm existing historical narratives, sometimes providing the only direct insight into certain aspects of ancient life. A wreck site, for example, might reveal the earliest known instance of a particular tool, or provide definitive proof of a trade link previously only speculated upon in ancient texts. Each recovered artifact is a piece of a colossal puzzle, slowly pieced together to paint a more complete and vibrant picture of humanity's past. As we gently drift through these ancient submerged landscapes where wooden hulls have settled into the soft embrace of the seabed, and amphorae lie scattered like forgotten pearls, we begin to appreciate the profound power of the deep ocean as a silent archivist. It holds not only the grand narratives of empires, but also the intimate stories of individuals, of their hopes, their struggles, and their final journeys. These echoes from the past, preserved in the cold, dark waters, continue to whisper their untold stories, inviting us to listen closely, to learn and to dream of the vast, interconnected world that once sailed upon these very waves. The journey into these ancient mysteries is a slow, meditative descent into the very origins of our maritime heritage, a journey that continues to unfold, one artifact, one timber, one silent secret at a time. Known facts and lingering questions of its final voyage. From the ancient wooden hulls that whisper tales of forgotten empires, we now turn our attention to a more recent, yet equally profound chapter in maritime history. One etched deeply into the collective consciousness of humanity, the story of the RMS Titanic. This colossal vessel, a behemoth of human ambition and engineering prowess, embarked upon its maiden voyage in April of 1912, heralded as the largest ship ever built, a floating palace, designed for unparalleled luxury, and perhaps most tragically proclaimed by many as unsinkable. Its very name, Titanic, evoked a sense of invincibility, a defiance of the ocean's raw power. Yet in the silent, frigid waters of the North Atlantic, this grand illusion was shattered, leaving behind a legacy of both known facts and haunting, lingering questions that continue to echo across the decades. The sheer scale of the Titanic was breathtaking. Imagine a structure stretching over 269 meters in length, its 4 towering funnels reaching towards the sky, its elegant superstructure adorned with countless portholes, each a window into a world of opulence. Within its steel shell lay lavish staterooms, grand dining saloons, sweeping staircases, and intricate Turkish baths, all designed to transport its 2,224 souls across the vast ocean in comfort and style. It was a microcosm of society, carrying millionaires and immigrants alike, all sharing the same grand floating stage, unaware of the impending profound drama. The night of April 14th, 1912, descended upon the North Atlantic with an unusual, almost deceptive tranquility. The sea was extraordinarily calm, a vast dark mirror reflecting the myriad stars above, creating a horizon so seamless that it became difficult to distinguish water from sky. There was no moon plunging the ocean into an inky blackness, a velvet curtain drawn across the stage of the impending tragedy. The air was frigid, indicative of the close proximity of ice. Despite numerous iceberg warnings received by wireless operators throughout the day, some were not relayed to the bridge with sufficient urgency, others perhaps dismissed amidst the routine of a maiden voyage. The lookouts peering into the silent void from the crow's nest found themselves without binoculars, a small oversight that would later loom colossal in its implications. At approximately 11:40 in the evening, the chilling cry came, "Iceberg right ahead." The pale, spectral shadow of an ancient sentinel of ice detached from its glacial origins had materialized directly in the ship's path. First Officer William Murdoch, reacting swiftly, ordered the engines reversed and the helm hard to port, attempting to swing the massive vessel away from the impending collision. The Titanic, with its immense momentum, began a slow, ponderous turn. However, the iceberg was too close, its submerged bulk extending far beneath the waterline. Instead of a direct head-on impact, which some engineers theorize might have been survivable, due to the ship's reinforced bow, the Titanic suffered a glancing blow along its starboard side. This seemingly less catastrophic impact proved far more devastating. The iceberg's jagged underwater spur scraped along the ship's hull for an agonizing 10 seconds, tearing open a series of 6 separate narrow gashes below the waterline across the first 6 of the ship's 16 watertight compartments. The Titanic was designed to stay afloat, with any 4 of its compartments flooded, but with 6 breached, its fate was sealed. The cold, relentless seawater began its insidious ingress, first a trickle, then a rush, pouring into the boiler rooms, the mailroom, and cargo holds. The ship's internal pressure bulkheads, while designed to contain water, were not sealed at the top, allowing the water to spill over from one compartment to the next, as the ship's bow began its slow, inexorable descent. Over the next 2 hours and 40 minutes, the Titanic embarked upon a slow, agonizing ballet of steel and water. The bow, growing heavier with the weight of the encroaching ocean, sank lower and lower, while the stern rose higher into the frigid night air. The ship developed a noticeable list to port. The immense structural stress on the hull, with its forward section submerged and its aft section still afloat, reached a critical point. At approximately 2:20 in the morning on April 15th, the ship's colossal frame could no longer withstand the opposing forces. With a thunderous, tearing groan of metal, the Titanic broke apart between the 3rd and 4th funnels, splitting into 2 large sections. The bow section plunged rapidly into the depths, while the stern section, briefly righting itself, then rotated vertically, its propellers pointing towards the stars, before making its own final shuddering plunge into the abyssal darkness, a final defiant bow to the ocean's power. The human tragedy that unfolded alongside this mechanical destruction was immense. With lifeboats designed to accommodate only about half of the total souls on board, and many launched only partially filled due to confusion, fear and a lack of clear command, panic inevitably spread. Over 1,500 lives were lost to the icy waters, a staggering number that included a disproportionate amount of third-class passengers, women and children who did not make it to the lifeboats, and the vast majority of the male crew who stayed at their posts. The chilling silence that followed the ship's final gurgle was broken only by the desperate cries of those in the water cries that slowly faded into the vast, indifferent expanse of the ocean. For 73 years, the Titanic lay undisturbed, a ghostly monument shrouded in the deep, its precise location a subject of speculation. Then, in 1985, a joint American-French expedition led by Dr. Robert Ballard finally located the wreck approximately 600 kilometers southeast of Newfoundland at a depth of nearly 4,000 meters. The discovery revealed the ship in two main sections, the bow and stern separated by about 600 meters, surrounded by a vast debris field, stretching for kilometers across the abyssal plain, a silent tableau frozen in time. Yet even with the wreck's discovery and subsequent expeditions, many questions continue to linger, deepening the mystery surrounding the Titanic's final voyage. One persistent debate revolves around the quality of the materials used in its construction. Scientists have hypothesized that the steel used for the hull, while state-of-the-art for its time, may have been particularly susceptible to brittle fracture in the frigid temperatures of the North Atlantic. Unlike modern steel, which remains ductile in cold, the Titanic's steel is believed to have become more like glass, prone to cracking rather than bending, exacerbating the damage from the iceberg's glancing blow. Furthermore, metallurgical analysis of rivets recovered from the wreck has suggested that some of the iron rivets used in the forward sections of the hull were of a lower grade containing a higher slag content, making them weaker and more prone to shear failure under stress. This theory suggests that the iceberg didn't necessarily cut the steel, but rather popped the heads off the brittle rivets, allowing the hull plates to separate and water to rush in. Another enduring enigma centers on the nearby SS Californian. This ship within sight of the Titanic reportedly saw distress rockets fired from the sinking liner. Why did it not respond? The official inquiry concluded that the Californian's wireless operator had gone to bed, and its captain misinterpreted the rockets as company signals or celebratory fireworks. However, some theories suggest a more complex scenario, perhaps a misunderstanding of the signals, or even a reluctance to engage. The role of atmospheric conditions that night has also been explored, the possibility of a superior mirage or atmospheric refraction, which could have distorted the horizon, making the iceberg invisible until too late, and later obscuring the Titanic from the Californian's view, creating a distorted reality on the sea. The coal fire theory, though not as widely accepted as the material failure hypotheses, also adds another layer of intrigue. It suggests that a smoldering coal fire in one of the Titanic's bunkers, which had been burning for days, may have weakened the specific bulkhead that was later struck by the iceberg, making it more vulnerable to breach. While a fire itself would not have sunk the ship, its presence could have contributed to the overall structural compromise in a crucial area. These lingering questions, woven into the fabric of the known facts, transform the Titanic from a mere historical event into an enduring human mystery. They speak to the fragility of even the grandest human endeavors, the unpredictable cruelty of nature, and the subtle, often devastating interplay of human error, technological limitations, and unforeseen circumstances. The wreck of the Titanic, resting in its abyssal grave, remains a silent witness to these unanswered questions, its twisted metal and scattered artifacts holding the potential for further revelations forever, whispering the story of that fateful night as the cold currents gently flow over its enduring enigmatic legacy. Its secrets, though not formally classified, are protected by the immense depth and the sheer scale of the tragedy, inviting quiet contemplation as we drift further into the ocean's dreamy embrace. Unconfirmed cargo and conspiracies aboard the Titanic. From the stark, chilling facts of the Titanic's final hours and the enduring questions surrounding its construction and the actions of those nearby, we now gently drift into the more ethereal realm of whispers and conjecture. For a catastrophe of such immense scale, involving figures of immense wealth and influence, inevitably births a constellation of theories, a silent chorus of what-ifs and might-haves that extend far beyond the official inquiries. Beneath the undeniable grandeur of the vessel itself and the tragic reality of its demise, there exist layers of unconfirmed cargo, whispered political secrets, and intricate conspiracy theories that continue to weave a complex, often unsettling narrative around the world's most famous shipwreck. These are the stories that linger in the shadows, protected not just by the ocean's depth, but by the very nature of their elusive truth. Imagine, if you will, the sheer volume of personal effects, valuable cargo, and official documents that would have been aboard such a grand liner, a veritable floating vault traversing the ocean. While the ship's manifest meticulously listed countless crates of fine china cases of champagne and automobiles, the human imagination often gravitates towards the unlisted, the hidden, the truly valuable that might have been secretly transported. One of the most persistent, though purely folkloric tales, speaks of an ancient Egyptian mummy supposedly cursed being carried in the cargo holds. This particular legend, often embellished with sensational details of its supposed malevolent influence, has no basis in fact. No such artifact was listed on the manifest, and reputable historians and archaeologists have consistently dismissed it as a product of sensational journalism and the enduring human fascination with ancient curses. Yet the story persists, a testament to the power of narrative, even in the face of logic, adding a touch of the supernatural to the Titanic's already profound mystique. More grounded, perhaps, in the realm of plausible yet unconfirmed speculation, are the whispers of vast quantities of precious metals, or gemstones. Imagine a discreet, heavily guarded strongbox, not officially declared, containing a fortune in diamonds, gold bullion, or rare jewels, perhaps transported by a wealthy passenger seeking to avoid taxes or secure assets in a new land. While the official cargo manifest did list some insured valuables, the notion of undeclared, illicitly carried riches has always tantalized the public imagination. The deep ocean in this context becomes not just a tomb, but a treasure chest, its contents forever beyond reach, fueling dreams of unimaginable wealth lying just beyond the veil of darkness. The sheer difficulty of salvaging such specific, small and heavy items from a debris field 4 kilometers deep means that such claims, even if true, would likely remain unproven forever, lost to the silent currents. However, the most compelling and intricate theories often revolve around not material wealth, but political power and influence. The Titanic was, after all, carrying some of the most prominent and influential figures of the era, titans of industry, finance, and politics. Among the passengers who perished were John Jacob Astor, the fourth Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus, all incredibly wealthy and powerful men. A widely circulated, though highly speculative, conspiracy theory suggests that these individuals were staunch opponents of the establishment of the United States Federal Reserve System. This theory posits that their deaths, conveniently occurring on a ship owned by J.P. Morgan, himself a powerful advocate for the creation of the Federal Reserve, were not accidental but orchestrated. Imagine the intricate web of finance and power in the early 20th century, a period of intense debate over the control of national currency. The Federal Reserve Act was eventually passed in 1913, just over a year after the Titanic's sinking. Proponents of this conspiracy believe that removing these influential opponents cleared the path for the Federal Reserve's creation. They point to the fact that J.P. Morgan himself, who had booked passage on the Titanic, cancelled his trip at the last minute, fueling further suspicion. While official records and historical accounts offer no verifiable evidence to support this theory, and Morgan's cancellation was attributed to illness, the narrative of powerful figures being eliminated to alter the course of history holds a potent, enduring appeal for those who distrust the official narratives of power. It transforms the tragic loss of life into a calculated, if horrific, act of political maneuvering, adding a layer of chilling intentionality to the disaster. Another fascinating, albeit less pervasive theory concerns the possibility of secret documents or classified information being aboard. Imagine government agents perhaps on covert missions carrying sensitive papers, or diplomatic communiques that, if revealed, could alter geopolitical landscapes. The era before secure digital communication meant that physical documents were often the only means of transporting classified intelligence. A sinking ship, especially one carrying individuals of such high stature, could have inadvertently become a repository for state secrets, forever sealing them beneath the waves. While no such documents have ever been confirmed or recovered, the very possibility adds a clandestine dimension to the Titanic's cargo, transforming it into a submerged archive of potential international intrigue. Perhaps the most audacious and thoroughly investigated conspiracy theory surrounding the Titanic is the switch theory. This hypothesis posits that the ship that sank was not the Titanic at all, but its sister ship, the RMS Olympic. The Olympic, launched earlier, had been involved in a collision with a British warship, HMS Hawke, in 1911, sustaining significant damage. The theory suggests that the damage to the Olympic was more severe than officially reported, and that rather than undertake costly repairs, the White Star Line secretly switched the two ships. The damaged Olympic, disguised as the Titanic, would then be deliberately sunk in a planned insurance fraud, while the undamaged Titanic would continue sailing as the Olympic. Proponents of this theory point to several supposed pieces of evidence: the alleged structural similarities between the two ships, minor differences in their appearance that they claim were not consistent with the Titanic's blueprints, and the financial pressures on the White Star Line. They argue that the planned sinking went awry, leading to the unexpected loss of life. However, extensive historical research, photographic analysis, and the physical examination of both wrecks, the Olympic was later scrapped, but its parts examined have overwhelmingly discredited this theory. The differences between the ships, though subtle, were distinct and well documented, and the logistical challenges of secretly switching two massive liners in a bustling shipyard without countless witnesses would have been insurmountable. Despite the overwhelming evidence against it, the switch theory endures in certain circles, a testament to the human desire for a grand, overarching conspiracy to explain a complex tragedy. The persistence of these unconfirmed stories and conspiracy theories speaks to a deeper human need, the desire for order and meaning in the face of random, devastating chaos. A simple accident, a collision with an iceberg, however tragic, can feel unsatisfying to the human mind. The search for a hidden hand, a secret agenda, or a grand conspiracy provides a narrative that imbues the event with purpose, however dark, making it more comprehensible, more controllable, even if only in the imagination. It reflects a fundamental mistrust of authority and official narratives, a belief that the real truth is always hidden, always more complex, always more sinister than what is presented to the public. The deep ocean, with its profound darkness and its immense capacity to conceal, becomes the perfect canvas for these speculative narratives. The very inaccessibility of the wreck, resting nearly 4 kilometers beneath the waves, makes definitive proof or refutation of many of these claims incredibly difficult. How does one prove that a specific undeclared strongbox of jewels wasn't aboard? How does one definitively prove that a secret meeting didn't take place in a private suite to discuss political machinations? The absence of evidence in the realm of conspiracy is often interpreted not as proof of non-existence, but as proof of a successful cover-up. Thus, the Titanic's legacy is not merely one of engineering marvel and tragic loss, but also one of enduring enigma. The unconfirmed cargo, the whispers of political intrigue, and the elaborate conspiracy theories, while often lacking empirical support, have become an indelible part of its story. They add layers of depth and mystery, transforming the wreck into more than just a historical artifact. It becomes a symbol of the unknown, a repository of secrets both real and imagined, forever lying in its silent, abyssal embrace. As we drift towards slumber, the lingering questions about what truly lay beneath the grandeur of the Titanic continue to echo soft and persistent in the quiet chambers of our minds, inviting us to contemplate the vast, unseen currents of history and human intention. Wartime secrets and the submerged evidence. From the profound, if largely unwritten secrets of the Titanic's final moments, we now gently turn our gaze to another ocean liner, one whose tragic end was inextricably woven into the brutal fabric of a global conflict, giving birth to an enigma of wartime secrets and submerged evidence, the RMS Lusitania. This majestic vessel, a jewel of the Cunard Line, was once celebrated as the fastest and most luxurious ship crossing the Atlantic, a symbol of Edwardian elegance and technological prowess. Yet its fate, sealed on a bright spring afternoon in 1915, would plunge it into the heart of a geopolitical storm. Its story becoming a crucible of debate, suspicion, and a lingering sense of truths kept hidden beneath the waves. Imagine the Lusitania, a colossal ship stretching over 240 meters in length, its 4 towering funnels piercing the sky, its sleek lines promising swift passage. Within its opulent interiors, passengers glided across polished decks, dined in grand saloons, and enjoyed the comforts of a floating palace, a world away from the gathering storm clouds of the Great War that had erupted across Europe. In May of 1915, as the Lusitania prepared for its 202nd transatlantic crossing from New York to Liverpool, the conflict had already begun to cast its long, dark shadow across the seas. Germany, engaged in unrestricted submarine warfare, had issued a stark warning in American newspapers, cautioning travelers that ships sailing into the war zone around Great Britain were liable to be sunk. Yet for many, the idea that a civilian passenger liner carrying women and children would be deliberately targeted seemed unthinkable. The Lusitania departed New York on May 1st, 1915, carrying nearly 2,000 passengers and crew, including 128 American citizens. The voyage across the vast ocean was initially uneventful, a rhythmic journey through the rolling waves. However, as the ship approached the coast of Ireland, entering the declared war zone, the sense of unease began to subtly grow. Despite the known threat of German U-boats and specific warnings regarding submarine activity in the area, the Lusitania was steaming unescorted, maintaining a steady course and speed, circumstances that would later become central to the bitter debates surrounding its demise. Then, on the afternoon of May 7th, 1915, at approximately 2:10 p.m. off the Old Head of Kinsale, on the southern coast of Ireland, the unthinkable occurred. The German submarine U-20, commanded by Kapitänleutnant Walter Schwieger, sighted the massive liner. Without warning, a single torpedo was launched. Imagine the chilling, silent arc of that torpedo through the water, a steel fish of destruction heading relentlessly towards its target. It struck the Lusitania on its starboard side just beneath the bridge, sending a geyser of water and debris high into the air. The initial impact alone would have been devastating, tearing a gaping wound in the ship's hull. However, almost immediately after the first explosion, a second, far more powerful detonation ripped through the ship's interior. This secondary explosion, described by survivors as a colossal, thunderous roar that shook the entire vessel, remains at the very heart of the Lusitania enigma. What caused this second catastrophic blast? Was it the ship's boilers exploding due to the sudden ingress of cold seawater? Was it the ignition of coal dust in the bunkers? Or was it, as many have long suspected, the detonation of a secret, undeclared cargo of munitions turning a civilian liner into a floating bomb? The Lusitania, despite its immense size, began to list heavily to starboard, the damage from the twin explosions proving fatal. The ship's internal bulkheads, designed to contain flooding, were compromised, and water rushed in with terrifying speed. Lifeboats on the port side, caught in the severe list, became impossible to launch effectively, swinging inwards and crushing passengers against the hull. On the starboard side, lifeboats were lowered with desperate urgency, but many capsized or were swamped by the rapidly sinking ship. In a mere 18 minutes, an astonishingly brief span for a vessel of its size, the Lusitania succumbed to the ocean's embrace, plunging bow first into the cold, green depths. Of the nearly 2,000 souls on board, 1,198 perished, swallowed by the waves, leaving behind a profound silence, punctuated only by the cries of the few survivors clinging to wreckage. The immediate aftermath was a maelstrom of international outrage. The sinking of a passenger liner with so many civilian lives, including 128 Americans, ignited a firestorm of condemnation against Germany. It became a powerful piece of propaganda for the Allied powers, galvanizing public opinion and pushing the United States closer to entering the war, though American entry would not occur for another 2 years. But beneath the public outcry, questions began to simmer. Questions that would eventually coalesce into the enduring enigma that surrounds the Lusitania. The central question, the one that fuels the most intense debate and suspicion, revolves around the ship's cargo. Was the Lusitania truly an innocent passenger liner, or was it carrying a significant amount of war material that contributed to its rapid demise? Official manifests did list some military items, approximately 4 million rounds of rifle ammunition and about 1,200 cases of shrapnel shells. However, these were small arms ammunition and relatively light artillery shells, which many experts believe would not have caused the massive secondary explosion witnessed by survivors. The sheer volume and nature of the second blast suggested something far more volatile. This leads to the persistent theory that the Lusitania was secretly carrying a much larger undeclared cargo of high explosives or other highly combustible war materials. Imagine crates of cordite, TNT, or other powerful munitions discreetly stowed in the lower holds, perhaps beneath the officially declared cargo. If such a cargo existed and was detonated by the initial torpedo strike, it would perfectly explain the catastrophic second explosion, the rapid onset of flooding, and the swift sinking. Proponents of this theory point to the British government's long-standing secrecy surrounding the wreck, its refusal to allow extensive independent archaeological investigation, and the deliberate suppression of certain documents related to the ship's cargo and its final voyage. Another layer of the enigma involves the actions or inactions of the British Admiralty, particularly Winston Churchill, who was then First Lord of the Admiralty. Why was the Lusitania a valuable asset and a potential target steaming unescorted through a known U-boat zone? Why were specific instructions such as zigzagging to evade submarines not followed or not clearly communicated? A darker, more controversial theory suggests that the British government, aware of the Lusitania's potential vulnerability and its secret cargo, may have deliberately exposed the ship, or at least failed to adequately protect it, in order to provoke American entry into the war. This chilling hypothesis, while lacking definitive proof, feeds into the narrative of wartime expediency and the grim calculations made by nations at war. Imagine the weight of such a decision, the sacrifice of civilian lives for a perceived strategic advantage. The submerged evidence, resting at a depth of approximately 93 meters off the Irish coast, has been crucial in attempts to unravel these mysteries. Unlike the Titanic, which lies far deeper, the Lusitania is within the reach of technical divers and has been visited by numerous expeditions. However, the wreck lies on its starboard side, heavily damaged and deeply embedded in the seabed, making comprehensive internal investigation incredibly challenging. The area where the torpedo struck and the secondary explosion occurred is heavily collapsed, with much of the forward section pulverized, making it difficult to definitively identify the source of the second blast. Some scientific theories propose alternative explanations for the second explosion. One widely discussed hypothesis points to the ignition of fine coal dust in the ship's bunkers. Coal dust, when suspended in air within an enclosed space, can be highly explosive. A torpedo strike could have created the necessary shockwave and spark to ignite such dust, leading to a secondary explosion of considerable force. Another theory suggests that the initial torpedo strike could have ruptured high-pressure steam pipes, or even caused a chain reaction in the ship's massive boiler rooms, leading to a steam explosion. However, the consensus among many experts is that while these factors could have contributed to the damage, they alone might not fully account for the sheer magnitude of the second blast described by survivors. Expeditions to the wreck have confirmed the presence of ammunition in the forward cargo holds, as listed on the manifest. However, the question of whether additional unlisted high explosives were present remains stubbornly unresolved. The sheer scale of the damage in the forward section makes it incredibly difficult to find definitive physical evidence of such a cargo. The British government's continued restrictions on extensive salvage or intrusive archaeological work at the site, citing its status as a war grave, and the desire to protect the remains, has inadvertently fueled the very suspicions it sought to quell. For those who believe in a cover-up, these restrictions are seen as further proof that there is something significant to hide, something that the submerged evidence might finally reveal, if fully explored. The Lusitania enigma therefore remains a haunting testament to the complex interplay of wartime necessity, geopolitical maneuvering, and the enduring human quest for truth. The ship's broken hull, resting silently on the seabed, continues to guard its secrets, its twisted metal and scattered debris offering tantalizing clues, but no definitive answers to the questions that have persisted for over a century. Was it a simple tragedy exacerbated by wartime conditions, or a calculated sacrifice shrouded in secrecy? As the gentle currents flow over its silent form, the Lusitania whispers its untold stories, inviting us to contemplate the profound depths of human conflict and the enduring power of the ocean to hold on to its hidden truths as our own thoughts begin to drift towards the quietude of slumber. A frozen tomb and its unspoken burdens from the warm, temperate waters off the Irish coast, where the Lusitania's wartime secrets lie, entwined with the deep we now journey northward into the frigid, icy expanse of the Baltic Sea. Here, in the bitter cold of winter, rests another colossal vessel, one whose tragedy, though far less widely known than the Titanic's eclipses, yet in sheer scale of human loss, forever marking it as a frozen tomb holding unspoken burdens, the MV Wilhelm Gustloff. Its story is not one of grandeur and glamour, but of desperation and survival. A harrowing chapter from the brutal final months of the Second World War, cloaked in the grim realities of military secrecy and the profound silence of the deep. Imagine the Wilhelm Gustloff, a magnificent German cruise liner launched in 1937, originally designed as a flagship for the Kraft, Durch Freude, or Strength Through Joy program. This initiative aimed to provide affordable cruises and leisure activities for German workers, part of the Nazi regime's propaganda efforts. The ship was a symbol of national pride, a floating resort with swimming pools, spacious cabins and grand public rooms, built to carry over 1,400 passengers in comfort. Its original purpose was to foster a sense of unity and well-being, a stark contrast to the horrific role it would ultimately play. With the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939, the Gustloff's luxurious days quickly ended. It was pressed into service first as a hospital ship, its elegant interiors converted to wards for the wounded, then later as a barracks ship for U-boat trainees. Its pristine white hull, once a beacon of leisure, became a drab, camouflaged vessel of war. By January of 1945, the war in the East was turning into a desperate, brutal retreat for Germany. The Soviet Red Army was advancing relentlessly across East Prussia, trapping millions of German civilians and military personnel. The only escape route for many was by sea across the icy, mine-infested waters of the Baltic. This desperate evacuation became known as Operation Hannibal, one of the largest maritime evacuations in history. On January 30th, 1945, the Wilhelm Gustloff, heavily overloaded with refugees, departed from the port of Gdynia, then known as Gottenhafen in occupied Poland. Its official capacity was just over 1,400 people, but estimates suggest that between 9,000 and 10,000 people were crammed aboard a living, breathing mass of humanity desperate to escape the advancing Soviet forces. Imagine the scene: thousands of terrified civilians, mainly women, children, and the elderly, along with wounded soldiers and naval personnel huddled together in every available space cabins, dining rooms, swimming pools, and even the cargo holds their faces etched with fear, their bodies shivering in the bitter cold of the Baltic winter. The ship was a floating sanctuary, a fragile hope against the crushing tide of war. The conditions were appalling. Sanitation was non-existent, food and water scarce, and the air thick with the smell of fear and desperation. The ship, once a symbol of joy, had become a vessel of profound sorrow. As it slowly made its way through the frozen sea, battling not only the relentless cold, but also the very real threat of Soviet submarines, its fate was sealed by a series of tragic decisions and unfortunate circumstances. The ship was initially accompanied by a torpedo boat and a smaller escort vessel, but these were diverted or suffered mechanical failure, leaving the Gustloff largely unprotected. Compounding the danger, Captain Friedrich Petersen, the ship's civilian master, and two naval commanders on board disagreed on the best course of action. Against the advice of one of the naval officers, the ship maintained a relatively shallow course and crucially kept its navigation lights on for a period, reportedly to avoid a collision with an approaching German minesweeper. This fateful decision made the massive vessel a clear, unmissable target in the dark, icy waters. At approximately 9:10 in the evening, the Soviet submarine S-13, commanded by Captain Alexander Marinesko, detected the slow-moving liner. Marinesco, a skilled and audacious submarine commander, launched 3 torpedoes. Imagine the chilling trajectory of these torpedoes through the dark, icy water, each one carrying its payload of destruction towards the overloaded ship. All 3 torpedoes found their mark. The first struck the bow, causing a massive explosion that ripped through the crew quarters. The second hit amidships, detonating in the swimming pool where hundreds of women and children were seeking warmth. The third struck the engine room, crippling the ship's power and sealing its fate. The impact of these multiple torpedoes sent a shuddering shockwave through the entire vessel, plunging it into chaos. Lights flickered and died, screams echoed through the dark corridors, and the ship immediately began to list heavily to port. The scene that unfolded was one of unimaginable horror and utter desperation. With the ship listing severely, only a handful of lifeboats could be successfully launched. Many were frozen in their davits, others capsized as they hit the water, spilling their terrified occupants into the freezing sea. The sheer number of people on board, combined with the extreme cold, the darkness and the rapid sinking, created a catastrophe of epic proportions. Within less than 50 minutes, the Wilhelm Gustloff rolled over and plunged beneath the icy waves, taking with it the vast majority of its human cargo. The number of lives lost that night is staggering and remains the single greatest maritime disaster in history. While the exact count is difficult to ascertain due to the chaotic nature of the evacuation and the lack of precise manifests for all passengers, estimates range from 9,000 to 10,000 people perished. Imagine 9,000 to 10,000 human beings trapped in a steel coffin or plunged into water barely above freezing, succumbing to hypothermia within minutes. Only approximately 1,200 survivors were pulled from the icy waters by German torpedo boats and other vessels that arrived on the scene. The vast majority of those who perished were civilians, women and children, caught in the brutal, indiscriminate maw of total war. The Wilhelm Gustloff now rests at a depth of approximately 45 meters off the coast of Poland, a frozen tomb on the Baltic seabed. Its wreck, declared a war grave by Poland, is protected, and diving on it is forbidden, a measure to respect the thousands of souls entombed within its mangled hull. This protection, while understandable and morally imperative, also contributes to the unspoken burdens and lingering questions surrounding the wreck. One of the most profound unspoken burdens relates to the secrecy surrounding the true number of people on board and the precise nature of the cargo. Due to the wartime conditions and the desperate, disorganized nature of the evacuation, accurate records were often impossible to maintain. The German authorities, keen to control information and maintain morale, were also reticent to fully disclose the extent of the disaster. This lack of transparency, coupled with the passage of time and the political sensitivities of the Cold War era, meant that the full story of the Gustloff and the scale of its human cost remained largely unknown outside of Germany for decades. It was a tragedy that for a long time was largely overshadowed by other, more widely publicized atrocities of the war, a silent cry from the depths. Beyond the human toll, there are whispers, persistent and unconfirmed, of other more tangible burdens carried by the Gustloff. Some theories suggest that in addition to the civilian refugees, the ship may have been carrying valuable artifacts, looted treasures, or even secret documents and technologies, as the German forces desperately tried to move assets away from the advancing Soviets. Imagine crates filled with priceless artworks, gold bullion, or sensitive military intelligence hastily loaded onto the ship in the chaos of retreat, now resting among the skeletal remains of its human cargo. While no credible evidence has ever emerged to substantiate these claims, the context of the war's final days, with its desperate attempts to salvage and conceal, lends a certain plausibility to the idea that the Gustloff, like many other retreating vessels, might have carried more than just people. The wreck itself, while protected, has been surveyed and photographed. Its condition reveals the devastating impact of the torpedoes and the rapid sinking. The hull is heavily damaged, especially in the areas of impact, and the sheer weight of the thousands of bodies within would have contributed to the vessel's rapid descent and its settling into the seabed. The cold, brackish waters of the Baltic, while not as deep as the Atlantic, still offer a degree of preservation, albeit with different chemical characteristics than the open ocean. The wreck lies encased in the soft sediments, a solemn monument to the ultimate cost of war. The Wilhelm Gustloff's story is a stark reminder that the secrets of the deep are not always about grand conspiracies or hidden treasures, but often about the profound, unquantifiable burdens of human suffering and loss. Its frozen tomb holds the echoes of countless desperate prayers, the silent testament to a moment of unimaginable terror and the raw, indiscriminate brutality of conflict. As we drift through the quiet contemplation of its fate, the unspoken burdens of the Gustloff continue to whisper their chilling lessons, reminding us of the fragility of life and the enduring power of the ocean to hold on to its most solemn, most devastating secrets as our own consciousness begins its slow, gentle drift into the profound quietude of slumber. Other military and Cold War wrecks with protected secrets. From the profound, often tragic narratives of civilian liners like the Titanic and the Lusitania, and the heart-wrenching human cost of the Wilhelm Gustloff, we now turn our attention to a different class of submerged secrets, those held within the silent steel hulls of military vessels, particularly those lost during the intense ideological battles of the Cold War. These are wrecks whose cargo was not merely valuable in monetary terms, but priceless in strategic intelligence, often carrying technologies of unimaginable power, classified documents of geopolitical significance, or even the very instruments of global destruction. Their secrets are not just unrevealed, but actively protected, guarded by the sovereign nations that own them by international treaties, and by the immense indifferent depths of the ocean itself. Imagine a vessel built not for luxury or commerce, but for stealth, for warfare, for the silent gathering of intelligence in the chilling shadow of nuclear confrontation. During the Cold War, a period of pervasive suspicion and an arms race of unprecedented scale, the loss of any military asset. Particularly, a submarine was not merely a tragedy, it was a potential intelligence windfall for the opposing superpower. Every piece of equipment, every logbook, every communication device, every advanced sonar array, and most critically, every nuclear weapon or reactor represented a meticulously guarded secret, the compromise of which could tip the delicate balance of power. When such a vessel vanished beneath the waves, it became a submerged vault, its contents instantly transformed into classified cargo of the highest order, its location and condition a matter of intense national security. One such profound mystery still resonating with unanswered questions involves the USS Scorpion, a United States Navy nuclear-powered attack submarine. In May of 1968, the Scorpion, a sleek, formidable hunter-killer, was on a routine patrol in the Atlantic Ocean, returning to its home port in Norfolk, Virginia. Then, without warning, it simply vanished. Imagine the sudden, chilling silence that descended upon the naval command as communications ceased and the powerful advanced submarine failed to report in. An extensive search was launched, a desperate scramble across vast ocean expanses, but for months, the ocean guarded its secret. Finally, in October of 1968, after an arduous deep-sea search utilizing sophisticated sonar and oceanographic mapping techniques, the Scorpion was located. It lay nearly 3,000 meters beneath the surface, approximately 740 kilometers southwest of the Azores. Its hull terribly mangled its structure, indicating a catastrophic internal event. The official US Navy inquiry concluded that the submarine had been destroyed by an internal explosion, likely involving one of its own torpedoes, though the exact cause was never definitively determined. The Scorpion carried 2 nuclear-tipped torpedoes, Mark 45 Astors, designed to deliver a nuclear payload against enemy submarines. These weapons, along with the submarine's nuclear reactor, represent the ultimate classified cargo, a silent radioactive testament to the Cold War's terrifying stakes. The wreck of the Scorpion remains a protected site. Its precise location is classified and access is restricted. While its primary status is a war grave honoring the 99 souls lost, the continued secrecy also stems from the presence of its nuclear materials. Scientists and environmental agencies monitor the site for any signs of radioactive leakage, a slow, patient watch over a silent, submerged danger. The questions surrounding its loss — was it an accidental implosion, a battery malfunction, or perhaps even a covert attack by a Soviet submarine? A theory that some naval historians and former officers still quietly entertain continue to drift across the decades, forever entangled with the presence of its protected nuclear cargo. A parallel yet far more revealing story of classified cargo and its recovery comes from the Soviet side of the Cold War divide, the K-129. This Soviet Gulf II-class ballistic missile submarine, carrying 3 nuclear missiles each with its own nuclear warhead, sank in March of 1968 in the North Pacific, roughly 2,900 kilometers northwest of Hawaii. Imagine a vessel of such immense strategic importance, armed with the power to unleash nuclear devastation, suddenly disappearing into the vast, indifferent ocean. The Soviets conducted their own search, but ultimately failed to locate the submarine. The United States, through its sophisticated underwater listening networks, had secretly tracked the K-129 and knew its general vicinity. What followed was one of the most audacious and elaborate covert operations in intelligence history, known as Project Azorian. For 6 years, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, under the guise of deep-sea mining for manganese nodules, constructed a colossal vessel called the Glomar Explorer. This ship was equipped with a massive claw-like mechanism designed to reach nearly 5,000 meters into the abyss and secretly lift a significant portion of the K-129 from the seabed. In 1974, the Glomar Explorer began its clandestine operation. Imagine the immense engineering challenge, raising a 40-meter section of a nuclear submarine, weighing thousands of tons from the crushing pressures of the deep, all while maintaining absolute secrecy from the world, and particularly from the ever-present Soviet intelligence. The operation was only partially successful. A significant portion of the retrieved section broke away during the lift and fell back to the seabed. However, the CIA did manage to recover a section of the submarine containing 2 nuclear torpedoes, code books, and the remains of 6 Soviet submariners. This recovered classified cargo provided invaluable intelligence about Soviet naval technology, code systems, and nuclear capabilities, fundamentally altering the Cold War intelligence landscape. The true extent of the recovery and the intelligence gained remains highly classified to this day, a testament to the profound value of submerged secrets. Another poignant example of a Cold War wreck with protected secrets is the USS Thresher, the lead ship of its class of nuclear-powered attack submarines. In April of 1963, during deep diving tests off the coast of Cape Cod, the Thresher suffered a catastrophic failure and sank with all 129 men on board. The official investigation concluded that a fault in a silver-brazed piping joint likely led to a loss of propulsion, and the inability to quickly surface resulted in the implosion of the hull under extreme pressure. While the Thresher did not carry nuclear weapons, it was powered by a nuclear reactor and represented the cutting edge of US submarine technology at the time. Its loss was a devastating blow, not only in terms of human life, but also in the potential compromise of highly advanced engineering secrets. The wreck, lying at a depth of approximately 2,560 meters, is a designated naval war grave. Like the Scorpion, its location is classified, and it is regularly monitored for environmental concerns related to its reactor. The lessons learned from the Thresher's loss led to significant improvements in submarine design safety protocols and deep-sea rescue technology. But the details of its advanced systems and the precise nature of its failure remain guarded, a silent testament to the rapid technological evolution and the inherent dangers of Cold War naval operations. Beyond submarines, various surface warships and even merchant vessels during both World Wars and the Cold War carried classified cargo. Imagine convoys steaming across treacherous seas, their holds filled not just with food and fuel, but with components for new weaponry radar systems or encrypted communication devices. The sinking of such a vessel meant not only the loss of the ship and its crew, but also the potential compromise of vital military intelligence. Documents, codebooks, and advanced prototypes, if recovered by the enemy, could shift the tide of battle or influence the course of an intelligence war. For this reason, many naval wrecks, even if not nuclear-powered, are considered protected sites, their contents still holding secrets that nations deem too sensitive to fully reveal even decades later. The deep ocean in this context becomes a vast, indifferent vault for these classified secrets. The immense pressure, the perpetual darkness, and the frigid temperatures act as natural guardians, making access incredibly difficult and expensive. The very act of attempting to recover such cargo, as demonstrated by Project Azorian, requires monumental resources and technological ingenuity. Furthermore, the legal and ethical dimensions are complex. Military vessels, even when sunken, are generally considered sovereign territory of their respective nations, protected by sovereign immunity. This means that unauthorized access or salvage attempts are strictly prohibited, enforced by international law and naval power. These wrecks are also hallowed war graves, and the sanctity of the fallen adds another profound layer of protection, ensuring their unspoken burdens remain undisturbed. Thus, the classified cargo of these military and Cold War wrecks represents a unique category of submerged secrets. They are not merely historical artifacts, but tangible remnants of a global struggle holding within their twisted metal. The echoes of technological races, strategic gambles, and the immense human cost of conflict. Their secrets, ranging from the terrifying power of nuclear weapons to the intricate details of advanced espionage technology, continue to be protected not just by the ocean's profound depths, but by the enduring imperatives of national security and the solemn respect for those who perished. As the quiet darkness of these stories settles around us, we drift into a contemplation of the hidden currents of history, where the ocean silently guards its most potent and carefully concealed truths, inviting our minds to journey into the deepest, most tranquil realms of slumber. Submersible technology and remote sensing in secret recovery. To pierce the profound guarding darkness of the abyssal realm, where the ocean silently holds its most potent and carefully concealed truths, humanity has meticulously engineered an array of ingenious tools. These sophisticated instruments, born from the relentless pursuit of knowledge and the unwavering spirit of exploration, extend our senses far beyond the limits of human endurance, allowing us to see and touch the deepest, most remote corners of our planet. They are the silent, tireless scouts and the precise robotic hands that peel back the layers of water, revealing the protected secrets held within the silent steel hulls of long-lost vessels. At the very forefront of this technological endeavor is remote sensing, the art of detecting and mapping the unseen from a distance. The primary sense through which we perceive the deep is sound, specifically through the use of sonar, an acronym for sound navigation and ranging. Imagine a ship on the surface gliding slowly across the vast ocean, emitting carefully calibrated pulses of sound into the water below. These sound waves, traveling through the dense liquid medium, spread outwards, encountering everything in their path before reflecting back towards sensitive hydrophones on the surface vessel. The time it takes for an echo to return, combined with the known speed of sound in water, allows scientists to precisely calculate the distance to objects on the seabed. One of the most powerful forms of sonar used in shipwreck detection is side-scan sonar. Picture this instrument, often housed in a sleek torpedo-shaped device, being towed hundreds or even thousands of meters behind a surface ship skimming just above the seabed. As it glides through the darkness, it emits narrow, fan-shaped acoustic beams to both its port and starboard sides, sweeping across a wide swath of the ocean floor. The sound waves reflect off the seabed and any objects resting upon it, creating a detailed acoustic image much like a photographic negative painted with sound. Hard, reflective surfaces like the steel of a shipwreck produce strong echoes, appearing bright in the sonar image. Conversely, the absence of echoes, the acoustic shadow cast by a wreck, provides crucial information about its height and shape, allowing researchers to discern the ghostly outlines of a sunken vessel, its broken mast or shattered superstructure, against the otherwise featureless plain of the deep. This slow, methodical process can map vast areas of the seafloor, methodically searching for any anomaly that might betray the presence of a long-lost secret. Building upon the capabilities of side-scan sonar, multi-beam echo sounders, or MBES, offer an even more intricate vision of the seabed. Instead of a single broad beam, these systems emit multiple narrowly focused acoustic beams, simultaneously arranged in a fan-like pattern beneath the vessel. Each beam independently measures the depth and angle of the seafloor beneath it. By combining the data from hundreds of these individual beams, powerful computers construct highly detailed three-dimensional bathymetric maps of the ocean floor. Imagine a digital sculptor slowly building a topographical model of the seabed, revealing every ridge, every canyon, and every subtle depression. A shipwreck, even if partially buried or heavily broken, will stand out as a distinct anomaly, its twisted metal frame or scattered debris creating unmistakable features within the otherwise smooth contours of the deep. This precise mapping is crucial for understanding the environment around a wreck and planning subsequent investigation. To peer beneath the very surface of the seabed, scientists employ sub-bottom profilers. These specialized sonar systems use lower frequency sound waves that can penetrate through layers of soft sediment. Imagine a gentle yet powerful pulse of sound passing through the silty bottom, encountering different layers of sediment or solid objects buried beneath. When the sound waves encounter a change in density, such as the hard metallic hull of a buried ship, a portion of the energy reflects back to the surface. By analyzing these reflections, researchers can create a cross-sectional image of the seabed, revealing objects that have been slowly, patiently enveloped by marine snow and sediment over centuries or millennia. This allows for the discovery of wrecks that are no longer visible on the surface of the seafloor, holding their secrets even deeper within the Earth's watery mantle. Complementing these acoustic tools are magnetometers. These sensitive instruments detect subtle variations in the Earth's natural magnetic field. Ferrous metals such as the iron and steel used in ship construction create localized distortions or anomalies in this field. Imagine a delicate needle constantly registering the invisible magnetic currents of the Earth and suddenly twitching as it passes over a large metallic mass hidden beneath the waves. Towed behind a survey vessel or an underwater vehicle, magnetometers can pinpoint the presence of large metallic objects, even if they are deeply buried or obscured by other features. They are particularly effective for locating older iron-hulled vessels or the large components of modern wrecks, acting as a sensitive divining rod for the metallic whispers of history. To cover vast, unexplored expanses of the ocean floor, efficiently engineers have developed autonomous underwater vehicles, or AUVs. These untethered robotic submersibles are pre-programmed with specific mission parameters, allowing them to glide silently and independently through the darkness. Imagine a sleek torpedo-shaped robot moving with an eerie grace, following precise grid patterns, methodically scanning thousands of square kilometers of the seabed without direct human intervention. AUVs can carry a suite of sensors including side scan, sonar, multi-beam, sonar magnetometers, and even high-resolution cameras collecting immense amounts of data over extended periods. Their ability to operate without a direct connection to a surface ship grants them unparalleled endurance and freedom of movement, making them invaluable for wide-area surveys in the search for elusive wrecks and their protected secrets. Once a promising anomaly has been detected, the journey shifts from remote sensing to direct submersible investigation and recovery. This is where the true hands and lights of the deep come into play, allowing human operators to interact with the submerged world. The workhorse of deep-sea exploration and recovery is the remotely operated vehicle, or ROV. These robotic submersibles are tethered to a surface support vessel by a thick, robust umbilical cable, a lifeline that carries power, high-bandwidth data, and fiber optic signals. Imagine this umbilical, sometimes kilometers long, as the nervous system connecting the human mind on the surface to the mechanical body in the abyss. ROVs are equipped with powerful thrusters, allowing them to precisely maneuver through the water even in challenging currents. Their primary sensory organs are arrays of powerful lights and high-definition cameras, which cut through the perpetual darkness, illuminating the ghostly forms of shipwrecks and revealing their intricate details in stunning clarity. Imagine the sudden, almost ethereal illumination of a centuries-old artifact, its colors muted by time and pressure brought into focus by these artificial suns. The hands of the ROV are its manipulator arms. These multi-jointed, dexterous robotic appendages are controlled with astonishing precision by operators on the surface, often using haptic feedback systems that allow them to feel the resistance and texture of objects thousands of meters away. These arms are capable of performing incredibly delicate tasks, such as carefully picking up a fragile ceramic pot, or more robust operations like cutting through rusted steel plates, operating specialized drills, or deploying recovery baskets. Some ROVs are equipped with multiple arms, each designed for a different function, providing a versatile toolset for archaeological excavation, scientific sampling, and critically, the recovery of sensitive or classified cargo. Imagine a robotic claw moving with the slow, deliberate grace of a surgeon, gently extracting a delicate, waterlogged document from a sealed compartment, bringing a hidden truth into the light. While ROVs provide remote access human-occupied submersibles, HOVs, such as the iconic Alvin, offer a unique, direct human perspective. These robust, pressure-resistant spheres carry a small crew, typically 2 scientists and a pilot, into the abyssal depths. Imagine peering through a small, incredibly thick viewport into an alien world of crushing pressure and eternal night feeling. The profound silence and the immense scale of the environment firsthand. While HOVs have limitations in terms of depth endurance and cost, the direct human presence allows for immediate observation, on-the-spot decision-making, and a profound intuitive understanding of the wreck site that even the most advanced robotics cannot fully replicate. The psychological impact of seeing a lost vessel, a frozen moment of history with one's own eyes, is an experience of unparalleled significance. For the recovery of truly massive or highly sensitive objects such as entire sections of a sunken submarine or large pieces of classified technology, highly specialized recovery vessels are deployed. These surface ships are essentially floating heavy-lift platforms, often featuring a moon pool, a large opening in the ship's hull through which massive recovery equipment can be lowered and raised. Imagine a colossal ship, its decks covered with intricate machinery, slowly positioning itself over a wreck site thousands of meters below its powerful cranes and winches, preparing to engage in a delicate dance of immense force and minute precision. Operations like these, exemplified by the historic recovery efforts of the Glomar Explorer, represent the pinnacle of deep-sea engineering, requiring unprecedented levels of planning, technological integration, and covert execution to retrieve classified cargo without revealing the true nature of the mission. The environment of the deep ocean itself presents immense challenges to all these tools. The crushing pressure requires submersibles and equipment to be built with incredibly strong, meticulously engineered hulls and components. The pervasive cold demands robust insulation and heating systems to protect sensitive electronics and hydraulic fluids. The eternal darkness necessitates powerful, energy-intensive lighting systems. Ocean currents, though often weaker in the deep than near the surface, can still pose significant challenges to precise maneuvering and station keeping, requiring dynamic positioning systems for surface vessels and sophisticated thruster control for ROVs. Furthermore, the immense distances involved create communication delays, as signals travel through kilometers of water, adding a layer of complexity to real-time control and decision-making for remote operations. Despite these formidable obstacles, the relentless advancement of submersible technology and remote sensing has transformed the inaccessible into the observable. These tools are the keys that unlock the silent archives of the deep, allowing us to meticulously document, analyze, and sometimes even recover the protected secrets held within the forgotten wrecks of our past. Whether it is the subtle magnetic whisper of a buried hull or the precise robotic hand retrieving a classified component, these technological marvels allow us to peel back the layers of the ocean, bringing its most carefully concealed truths into the soft, illuminating light of understanding. As our own thoughts begin to gently drift into the profound, tranquil realms of slumber, sovereign immunity, salvage rights, and international waters. As our intricate tools of the deep pierce the profound darkness, illuminating the silent steel hulls of long-lost vessels and their protected secrets, we encounter not only the immense physical challenges of the abyssal realm, but also a complex, often contentious labyrinth of legal frameworks. For the ocean particularly, its vast open expanses is not a lawless void. It is governed by a delicate and evolving tapestry of international maritime law, weaving together ancient traditions, modern treaties, and the sovereign rights of nations. Understanding these laws of the labyrinth is absolutely crucial to comprehending why some shipwreck secrets remain so fiercely guarded, why certain wrecks are untouchable, and why the pursuit of submerged truths often becomes entangled in diplomatic complexities and legal battles, even decades or centuries after a vessel has slipped beneath the waves. At the very heart of this legal framework, particularly concerning military wrecks and those carrying classified cargo, lies the principle of sovereign immunity. Imagine a warship, a submarine, or any vessel owned and operated by a sovereign state for non-commercial purposes sailing under its national flag. Under customary international law and enshrined in various treaties such as the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, such vessels are considered extensions of their nation's territory even when in international waters. When a state-owned vessel sinks, it generally retains its sovereign immunity. This means that the wreck, along with all its contents, remains the property of the flag state indefinitely. No other nation, no private entity, no salvage company has the right to access, survey, disturb, or salvage that wreck without the express permission of the sovereign state that owned it. This principle is profound in its implications. For example, the wrecks of the USS Scorpion and USS Thresher discussed earlier remain the sovereign property of the United States. Any unauthorized attempt to access them would be considered a violation of U.S. sovereignty, akin to trespassing on American soil. Similarly, the wreck of the K-129, the Soviet submarine partially recovered by Project Azorian, remained the sovereign property of the Soviet Union and now Russia. This legal protection allows nations to guard their military secrets, be it advanced technology, classified documents, or nuclear materials, even when these secrets rest thousands of meters deep. The respect for war graves honoring the souls lost often reinforces this immunity. But the underlying legal principle is one of national ownership and control over state assets regardless of their submerged status. Contrasting with sovereign immunity are the laws of salvage, which primarily apply to private or commercial vessels. The ancient maritime tradition of salvage dictates that anyone who voluntarily saves property at sea or helps to save it from peril is entitled to a reward. This reward is typically a percentage of the salvaged property's value determined by a maritime court and is meant to incentivize rescue and recovery efforts. Imagine a storm-damaged merchant ship adrift its cargo at risk. A daring tugboat crew pulls it to safety and is then entitled to a share of the value of the saved ship and cargo. However, applying salvage law to shipwrecks, especially those of historical significance or those in deep international waters, becomes incredibly complex. Who owns a wreck that has been lost for centuries? Does the first party to discover it automatically gain rights? Generally, in the absence of sovereign immunity, the original owner retains title to the wreck even after it sinks. But proving original ownership, especially for ancient vessels, can be incredibly challenging. Furthermore, the concept of abandonment comes into play. If an owner has clearly abandoned a wreck, relinquishing all rights and interests, then a salver might be able to claim ownership or salvage rights, particularly if they can demonstrate significant effort and skill in discovery and recovery. This often leads to protracted legal battles between salvers, original owners, or their descendants, and even national governments who might claim cultural heritage rights over a wreck. The concept of international waters, also known as the high seas, adds another layer of complexity to this legal labyrinth. Historically, The high seas were considered res communis, meaning common heritage of mankind, open to all nations and subject to no single state's sovereignty. This freedom of the high seas allowed for navigation, fishing, scientific research, and even military exercises without permission from any single nation. For centuries, this meant that shipwrecks located beyond a nation's territorial waters, typically 3 to 12 nautical miles from the coastline, were largely fair game for anyone with the means to find and salvage them, provided they didn't violate the sovereign immunity of military vessels. However, the late 20th century saw a significant evolution in maritime law, driven by technological advancements that allowed for deeper exploration and the recognition of environmental and cultural heritage concerns. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, adopted in 1982 and widely ratified, established a comprehensive legal framework for all ocean activities. UNCLOS defined various maritime zones, territorial seas extending up to 12 nautical miles from the coast, where a coastal state exercises full sovereignty, including over the seabed and its resources. Wrecks here are generally under the exclusive jurisdiction of the coastal state. Contiguous zone, extending up to 24 nautical miles from the coast, allowing a coastal state to prevent infringement of its customs, fiscal, immigration, or sanitary laws. Exclusive Economic Zone EEZ, stretching up to 200 nautical miles from the coast, granting the coastal state sovereign rights for exploring, exploiting, conserving, and managing natural resources, including those on the seabed. This is particularly relevant for shipwrecks, as many historically significant sites, even in deep water, now fall within a nation's EEZ, giving that nation significant control over their fate. The high seas, beyond the EEZ, where the traditional freedoms apply, but even here, UNCLOS has provisions for the protection of cultural heritage and the environment. The implications of UNCLOS for shipwrecks are profound. Many wrecks that were once considered to be in international waters, and therefore potentially open to salvors, now fall within the EEZ of a coastal state. This grants the coastal state the right to regulate archaeological exploration, salvage, and environmental protection of these sites. This has led to disputes where salvors operating under traditional salvage law find themselves in conflict with national governments, asserting their rights under UNCLOS to protect what they deem their cultural heritage. Beyond UNCLOS, other international agreements and national legislation further complicate the picture. The UNESCO Convention on the Protection of the Underwater Cultural Heritage, adopted in 2001, aims to protect underwater cultural heritage from commercial exploitation and irresponsible salvage. While it has not been as widely ratified as UNCLOS, it provides an ethical and legal framework for nations to manage their submerged heritage, emphasizing preservation in situ, leaving the wreck undisturbed on the seabed, and scientific research. Imagine a fragile wooden hull, its timbers slowly decaying, being protected from intrusive commercial salvage, allowing future generations to study it with even more advanced non-invasive technologies. The legal battles surrounding shipwrecks can be protracted and incredibly expensive. The pursuit of treasure from wrecks, particularly those laden with precious metals, often pits commercial salvors who invest millions in deep-sea technology against governments, historians and archaeologists who advocate for the wreck's cultural and historical value over its monetary worth. The case of the SS Central America, a 19th century sidewheel steamer that sank with a vast cargo of gold during the California Gold Rush, is a prime example. Its discovery and subsequent salvage led to decades of legal disputes over ownership of the recovered gold, involving numerous insurance companies, investors, and the original salvors. For wrecks carrying classified cargo, the legal framework is even more stringent. Governments are often proactive in asserting sovereign immunity, sometimes even without publicly confirming the precise nature of the cargo. The very act of acknowledging what was on board could compromise national security. This means that such wrecks become de facto no-go zones, their secrets protected not just by the depths, but by the full force of international law and national interest. The deliberate secrecy surrounding these sites is not merely about hiding information from the public, but about preventing intelligence adversaries from gaining access to sensitive technology, strategic plans, or nuclear materials. The labyrinth of maritime law therefore shapes the very narrative of shipwreck secrets. It determines who has the right to search, who has the right to recover, and who ultimately controls the information that emerges from the deep. These laws are not static. They evolve with technology, with geopolitical shifts, and with a growing understanding of the ocean as a fragile, valuable repository of both natural and cultural heritage. They are the invisible boundaries that define the limits of exploration, the rules that govern the pursuit of submerged truths, and the silent guardians of secrets that nations deem too important to ever fully reveal. As these legal currents flow around the silent wrecks, our minds drift through the complexities of human governance, finding a quietude in the understanding that even in the vast open ocean, there are intricate rules that shape the destiny of its hidden treasures, guiding us gently towards the profound stillness of slumber, eternal mysteries, and the dreams of what lies hidden. From the intricate legal currents that govern the fate of submerged secrets defining who may seek and who must refrain, we now gently drift towards the profound realization that despite all our advanced tools and legal frameworks, the vast majority of the ocean's mysteries will forever remain just that eternal, protected by the sheer scale of the abyss and the silent, patient indifference of geological time. The ocean, in its immense and unfathomable entirety, continues to whisper its untold stories, inviting our minds to contemplate the dreams of what still lies hidden beneath its ceaseless rolling surface. Imagine, if you will, the colossal expanse of our planet's watery realm. Over 70% of Earth's surface is covered by ocean, and the average depth stretches to nearly 4,000 meters. To put this into perspective, less than 25% of the global seafloor has been mapped to a high resolution, comparable to the detail we possess for the surfaces of the Moon or Mars. This means that vast, unexplored territories covering millions of square kilometers still exist beneath the waves. Their topographical features, their geological formations, and the countless human artifacts resting upon them, entirely unknown to us. In this truly immense and largely unmapped territory, the number of undiscovered shipwrecks is estimated to be in the millions each, a potential time capsule, each a silent witness to a moment in human history, patiently awaiting the faintest glimmer of discovery. Finding a single vessel, even a large one, within this colossal dark labyrinth is akin to searching for a single grain of sand across an entire desert, blindfolded, and with only the occasional echo to guide your way. Some secrets, however, are destined to remain truly eternal, utterly beyond the reach of human inquiry, regardless of future technological advancements. Consider the delicate balance of preservation within the deep ocean. While cold pressure and low oxygen can work wonders, they are not absolute guarantors. Many vessels, particularly older wooden ships or those in less than ideal conditions, might have succumbed entirely to the slow, relentless processes of decay, their organic components devoured by specialized microbes, their metallic parts corroded into unrecognizable forms. Imagine a wooden fishing boat lost in shallow, warmer waters, its timbers slowly consumed by shipworms over decades, leaving no trace behind. For countless wrecks, only a scattering of ballast stones or a faint, magnetic anomaly might remain mere ghosts of their former selves, their specific stories irretrievably lost to the currents of time and the voracious appetite of the deep. Furthermore, some secrets are protected by the very physics of their demise. A ship that broke apart violently during its descent, its components scattered across kilometers of seabed, its cargo pulverized by implosions, might present such a fragmented picture that a complete understanding of its contents or the precise circumstances of its loss becomes impossible. The very act of recovering small, delicate items from such an extensive debris field, particularly at extreme depths, is a monumental undertaking, often yielding only tantalizing fragments rather than a complete narrative. The ocean in these instances acts as a colossal, indiscriminate shredder, preserving some pieces while utterly obliterating others, ensuring that portions of the story are forever erased. Then there are the secrets that are eternally protected not by natural forces but by human design and legal decree. Military wrecks, particularly those from the Cold War era, often contain highly sensitive technologies, advanced weaponry, or nuclear materials. The principle of sovereign immunity ensures that these sites remain the exclusive domain of their flag state. Even if technology advanced to the point where every rivet could be examined, the information gleaned would likely remain classified, shielded from public knowledge by the imperatives of national security. Imagine the detailed blueprints of a cutting-edge submarine, or the precise composition of a nuclear warhead now resting in the deep. Their physical presence may be known, but their true significance, their classified details, are intentionally kept hidden, deemed too vital to be revealed even to the most curious minds. These are secrets that nations choose to bury, not just in the ocean, but in the annals of their own classified archives, ensuring their silence is maintained indefinitely. The enduring human fascination with what lies hidden beneath the waves is itself a profound mystery. Why are we so drawn to these dark, cold, inaccessible places? Perhaps it is a deep-seated curiosity about the unknown, a fundamental human drive to explore the limits of our world and our understanding. Perhaps it is the allure of untold stories, the desire to connect with past lives and distant eras, to piece together the fragments of human endeavor that have been swallowed by the sea. The thought of a forgotten treasure, a lost civilization, or a pivotal historical document resting silently in the deep ignites a spark of wonder within us, a dream of revelation that transcends the mundane. It speaks to our collective imagination, transforming the ocean into a vast, enigmatic canvas upon which we project our deepest desires for discovery and meaning. Yet, even as we acknowledge the eternal nature of some mysteries, the relentless march of scientific and technological progress continues to slowly, patiently peel back the layers of the deep. Future generations will undoubtedly possess even more sophisticated tools, autonomous underwater vehicles capable of unprecedented endurance and data collection, artificial intelligence algorithms designed to sift through vast datasets of sonar imagery for subtle anomalies, and new sensor technologies capable of detecting specific materials or even chemical signatures from afar. The ongoing global effort to fully map the seabed, such as the GEBCO Seabed 2030 project, promises to transform our understanding of the ocean floor, revealing its intricate topography in unprecedented detail, and in doing so, undoubtedly uncovering countless new anomalies that hint at the presence of undiscovered wrecks. However, each new discovery also brings with it new ethical and legal dilemmas. The delicate balance between scientific exploration and the preservation of cultural heritage, the rights of discovery versus the sanctity of war, graves, and the environmental impact of disturbing long-dormant sites. The ocean in its profound wisdom reminds us that not every secret is meant to be fully revealed. Not every hidden truth is meant to be unearthed. Some stories are best left to the quietude of the deep, their whispers carried on the slow, patient currents, their ultimate meaning forever woven into the fabric of the water itself. The ocean remains the ultimate archivist, its vastness ensuring that even as we learn more, an infinite expanse of mystery will forever endure. Its breath is slow, its memory long, and its secrets continue to drift silently beneath the surface. And so as we drift away from these profound, submerged mysteries, from the whispered secrets of the Titanic, the Lusitania, and the Wilhelm Gustloff, let the vast, silent ocean become a gentle metaphor for the approaching night. Just as the tide recedes, pulling the day's concerns back into its depths, feel your own thoughts begin to soften and withdraw. The sun now dips below the horizon of your awareness, casting long, peaceful shadows over the waking world, inviting a quiet surrender. In the profound quietude of sleep, our minds, much like the deep ocean, hold their own hidden currents and unspoken stories waiting to be explored in the gentle realm of dreams. Let the immense calm pressure of the abyss soothe any lingering restlessness, and the pervasive darkness wrap around you like a comforting blanket. May the deep, silent currents of the ocean carry your consciousness to the most tranquil, secret corners of slumber, where true peace awaits. Sleep well, see you again.